Welcome to the Archive Network. I'm Aurelius, and with me as always, Malik. We curate the Conflict Archive. Today, we open a new file. Conquests of Alexander the Great. Malik, you've had this one on your desk for a while. The world waits, breathless. A young king sharpens his ambition. Ancient powers cast long shadows across the land. This is the backdrop for the rise of Alexander. In 336 BCE, Macedonia is poised for transformation. Once a forgotten kingdom, it now stands as a formidable force. Philip II forged an iron nation from feuding tribes. Greece itself is weary, fractured by endless wars.
But Aurelius, it's important to understand that this wasn't purely a tale of ambition. Macedonia's rise came at a terrible cost. Philip II's iron grip meant oppression for many. The tribes weren't just unified, they were subdued. The echoes of their struggles are often overlooked in the grand narrative of conquest. What Alexander inherited was a kingdom built on broken backs.
You're not wrong about the cost, Malik. Yet, this is what empires do. They consolidate and dominate. Philip's methods were brutal, but they were effective. The Greeks, weary from their wars, found themselves in a precarious position. They saw an opportunity in Alexander's vigor, even if fear was the true binding force. His ascension marked a significant shift in the balance of power.
And yet, the very fear you mention becomes a double-edged sword. The League of Corinth, for instance, bowed not from loyalty, but from terror. Alexander's reign began with bloodshed, not unity. The destruction of Thebes is a perfect example. Thousands lost their lives, and that brutality created enemies, not allies. How can you call this a foundation for a lasting empire?
The destruction of Thebes was a statement. It served as a warning to others. But it also demonstrated Alexander's resolve. He was not just a young prince. He was a force to be reckoned with. His methods may seem harsh, yet history often rewards decisiveness over indecision. The fear he instilled was a tool, and he wielded it masterfully.
But at what cost, Aurelius? The fear he instilled created a fragile alliance. It wasn't loyalty binding the Greeks to him. It was the dread of his wrath. This is not the foundation of a stable empire. The Persian governors in Asia Minor saw this too. They were not merely fearful. They were mobilizing against him. Darius III faced his own turmoil, and that was no coincidence.
Darius III had his own challenges, yes. But the Persian Empire was vast. Its myriad of rebellions would only fuel Alexander's ambition. In many ways, the cracks were already showing. The Greek cities under Persian rule whispered of revolt. This is a classic case of empires faltering from within. Alexander's timing could not have been better.
And yet, those whispers of revolt were not a guarantee of victory for Alexander. The Persian navy still held dominion over the Hellespont. That formidable barrier loomed large for any invader. Merchants in Abydos were on edge, scanning the horizon. While Alexander gathered his forces, the Persians were not idle. They were planning their own strategies, and that could spell disaster for him.
True, the Persian navy was a formidable obstacle. However, Alexander was aware. He understood the stakes. The preparations in Macedon were extensive and methodical. Blacksmiths toiled day and night, hammering iron into weapons of war. It wasn't just an army. It was a living force, hungry for conquest. The drums of war beat louder as every soldier felt the weight of history on their shoulders. Tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break.
But that eagerness could easily slip into recklessness. The League of Corinth bowed, sure, but their resolve was as fragile as a house of cards. Alexander's ambition needed more than just numbers. It demanded loyalty. As he gathered his allies, it was fear that held them together, not a shared vision. Those whispers of discontent grew louder each day, and you could see it in their eyes, doubt creeping in, threatening to unravel everything they were trying to build.
You make a valid point, Malik. Fear-based loyalty isn't a solid foundation for any leader. But let's not forget, history often rewards boldness. Alexander was nothing if not bold. As spring approached in 334 BCE, he stood poised at the Hellespont, ready to challenge the known world. The air crackled with possibility. The stakes were high, and destiny awaited him. It's a reminder that sometimes it's the audacious who carve their names into history.
Yes, but boldness without foresight can lead to disaster. As darkness fell before the invasion, Alexander made sacrifices to the gods, hoping for favor. The camp was alive with clatter and prayer, a mix of fear and hope. Yet, how many of those soldiers truly believed in his cause? When it came down to it, the real question remains: was he a liberator, fighting for freedom, or merely a conqueror chasing after glory and fame?
History will ultimately judge Alexander's legacy. He was undeniably a man of ambition. But ambition can be a double-edged sword. It can spark greatness or lead to utter ruin. As he took his first step onto Asian soil, the world held its breath, waiting for the next chapter. This was merely the beginning. The thunder of conquest was yet to come. We often forget that every empire starts with a single act of courage, a bold move that changes everything.
That's where we leave it for now. Part 1 of 5. Conquests of Alexander the Great is far from done. If you're new here, we're Aurelius and Malik, curators of the Conflict Archive, part of the Archive Network. Part 2 drops soon.